Greetings. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. I'm your host, William Becker, and I am very pleased to have with me as my guest today the one and only paranormal Pete. Pete and I go back a long ways now, and he's a really good dear friend, and it's always fun to have him on. It's great because I actually get a chance to talk to him. His life is so busy. This is a great way for me to say hi, So, Pete, welcome to the show.
Thanks, William. Always fun to be here. And
Thank
I
you.
am busy, and yes, it is a good catch-up time, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't criticizing.
Yeah.
Ben, what have you got going on? Let's get the promos out of the way first.
Yeah, shameless self-promotion, yeah.
Exactly.
Let's see. Well, I've got some ghost walk tours coming up in the
Hmm.
next couple of months and special investigations.
Okay.
Those are public. You just got to get a ticket and be 16 or over, but it's a chance to have a paranormal investigation experience in a really cool location. Uh,
How do people sign up for those?
yep, just go to portgambleparanormal.com and you can get all the ticket information. You can buy your tickets right there on the site. So,
I'm typing this in.
yeah, it's all portgambleparanormal.com, and the tickets are run through Eventbrite, so you can find the events on there. Just look up Port Gamble Paranormal.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm excited for those. Over the years, it seems I've got some of my best evidence in the summertime. So it's the first time doing summer events. So we'll see how everything goes. Had an investigation last weekend that was a lot of fun, and we had some activity, hearing the footsteps. Someone walking around. Someone heard somebody growling.
Wow.
We couldn't find any animals, and a lot of strange EMF readings throughout the house. So that was all at the Walker Ames house here in Port Gamble. So
Fantastic.
that was a lot of fun. And let's see, I've got what else do I got coming up? Well, my band's playing tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. So my
You
band's
you you
go
guys
ahead.
need a gig down here so I can see it.
I know. Well, maybe we'll get down. We got to get down to Portland and play.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so we're playing tonight in Bremerton, Washington, at the Manette Saloon, and
Okay.
it's always a fun place to play. They got a great sound system there. Um, so then the band's called Steady Rock Cosmonaut. For those who don't know, so you can just look us up on Spotify or any streaming service. Just look up Steady Rock Cosmonaut, and so I'm excited about that. Music's kind of my best, medicine.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's always nice to get out and jam. And then I'll be speaking at the OC Paracon October 1st and 2nd down in Anaheim. I'm super excited for that, just to get to travel and,
Right.
and go meet a bunch of new people.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to be speaking on investigation data review. And
Okay.
I'll be on a panel discussion about broadcasting the paranormal, and I'll be there doing readings all weekend. So I'll have to have a big tanker of water with me to get through the weekend. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you're interested, or if you're down in California looking for something to do, go to ocparacon.com and you can get all the info there. It's on Saturday and Sunday, October 1st and 2nd. And so very excited for that. And then, of course, the Port Gamble Ghost Conference coming up November 11th through 13th.
Okay.
And I think it's the 13th annual conference, lucky number
Wow.
13. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's going to be fun. We're going to be doing it in the historic theater, so in a haunted location. So that's always fun to do it there.
Yeah.
And looking forward to checking out the Masonic Lodge more. So I think we'll have that, and plus all the other locations too. So I think we're going to have a really nice lineup of speakers. I'm still booking everybody, William.
Oh, I
And
need to. Sorry. I definitely want to come. I don't think I have money to be out of town, so I definitely, yes, I'm
okay.
coming. I need to fill something out.
Yes.
So Yeah.
And you can get all the applications and and you can get tickets, general admission and investigation tickets right now. That's all
Mhm.
on Port Gamble's website, portgamble.com, and just go to the events tab. You'll see Ghost Conference there. And over the course of this next month, I'll be starting to post on the website and on social media speakers and classes, things like that that'll be coming up. So class tickets will go on sale probably sometime in August once I get a good class section all filled out with people. And then we'll start selling those tickets too. And the class tickets, a good portion of those benefits the actual class instructor to help offset some costs there for those. So if you're interested in teaching a class or being a speaker or being a vendor there, you can get all the applications at portgamble.com. So yeah, just working like crazy and doing all this stuff on the at night.
Um, yeah, we need to chat a bit about the class and the speaking. I'd love to do both.
Okay.
Um, and Pete's conference, I've been to a few conferences. I spent 3 years was a co-founder of one. But the Port Gamble one is something really special. Um, it seems to be a little bit more serious, though fun. I mean, it's a great deal of fun, but it doesn't seem to be so scattered. It seems to concentrate a little bit more on the metaphysics, the paranormal, whatever the people are doing. It's social, but it's not the same as some of these other places where it just doesn't feel quite as unified. Maybe I'm
Well,
not.
it's the venues aren't as big either, so it's kind of a more intimate sort of feel because the venues can only hold so many people,
Right.
and so you kind of get to know everybody,
Hmm.
and that's a big part of it. And we
Yeah.
just hope every year people can come and learn a bunch of stuff
Hmm.
and meet new people and have some fun along the way. So that's what it's all about.
I just I'm looking forward to the day when you actually get a hotel in town.
Yeah, maybe, who knows.
Yeah.
We'll
No.
see. It's too bad the hotel that was here was torn down in 1963 because that
Right.
was a huge, beautiful building, and it's just a shame that we don't have it anymore.
Yeah. That stupid Columbus Day storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Dang Mother Nature.
I know. Um, and also for those of you that are going to see Pete down in Orange County. Now here we say in the Portland area, we make sure we say Orange County, not OC, because the real OC is Oregon City.
Oh,
We
pardon me.
predate we predate Orange County.
Oh,
So
yes, you do.
so people down in this neck of the woods get um persnickety about these things.
Okay.
Not not really. Um, but Pete really is a talented medium. He's one of the two or three people in I know that I would refer people to and have. So and he's also
Thanks.
a great speaker and teacher, and he and I have done several events together. So I've got firsthand knowledge of it. And
Yeah.
thanks to hi all the guys that have written in and said hi. It's great. I've got two friends from England watching. So Matt and Jamie. Anyway, and you know my style. I bounce off the walls and off the roof. It's part of my ADHD charm.
Squirrel. Yeah.
Yeah, squirrel mind. But we were talking about interesting, to put it lightly, encounter you had earlier this week before the show started. Do you want to go into that at all?
Sure. I mean, it could be an interesting subject. I was telling William that so I work in this historic town in Port Gamble. And there's everything's old. The buildings, the infrastructure, everything's old. Our newest house here in Port Gamble is 1919. The average age of the houses are 1890 if you average them all out.
Okay.
Um, and so hence the trees are old, and we had a hurricane like it felt like it, windstorm on Tuesday, and there was this big old maple tree here in town. Big chunk of it fell off and onto a house here in town, and thankfully nobody was there, and nobody was injured through the whole thing. So that was really good. Um, but I was kind of initially on the scene with a professional tree service. I was actually the business owner, um, and it was King Tree Service. If you're in Kitsap County, they're an amazing tree service. So I was there just kind of initially assessing damage, trying to see what was going on. One of the chimneys of the house was laid over on the roof of the house, being held up by some small branches. And we knew that was going to be pretty precarious. So we were standing there trying to get a game plan. Oh, geez, how are we going to get this chimney down without it, causing more damage or hurt somebody? And as we were standing there, we heard a big crack because another wind gust came through, and we both kind of looked up, and I saw another huge section of the tree start to come down. And so I yelled, "Get out!" And the other guy, he ran one way, I ran the other, and uh, it was probably about an 18-inch in diameter limb that was coming down with all the other smaller parts of it too. And so the smaller parts hit me on its way down, and I ran, and the big part of it slammed on the ground next to me, 6 inches to my right, when I kind of stopped and caught my breath. And that it really freaked me out to realize, had I just been standing 6 inches over, it would have clobbered me. And so I called my wife, told her I loved her, and it was it wasn't like a near death experience like in a car accident or anything like that, but it was just one of those, had I done this instead of that, had this been this way instead of that, I would have been in a world of hurt, if not dead. And but it was it freaked me out for a couple of days. I'm feeling better now, but when I was going through it, and you hear when near death experiences, people say everything gets like slow motion, right? And so I got to experience that, and it was really, uh, after processing it and everything, it was quite interesting because in just those few seconds that this happened, and it was literally just a few seconds, uh, I thought for sure that branch was coming down on me. Uh, I accepted the fact that my time was up, although, again, this is all in just a couple seconds, right? And I thought, this is it. I'm dying. And as I looked ahead running, I didn't physically see, but I psychically saw in front of me my wife and my daughters. And I ran directly straight at them. And I think that they saved me because, I ran straight towards them. It was like I had a direction to run. And if I didn't have that, maybe I would have ended up 6 inches over. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just thinking about it and processing everything. I think there was more to it than I initially thought. And so just trying to process all that, but seeing my wife and girls and directly in front of me, I just ran straight at them, all within a few seconds, which seemed like a lifetime. That was crazy.
Yeah. Wow. And here's from Molly.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I said it when you left the house, that if you hear a crack, just get out of the way. But I certainly was thinking it here at the house. Yeah, she said something like that before I left, and
Yeah.
because I saw her right before I went over there to check on the tree, and she's like that. She's premonition. She seems
She's good.
to. Yeah, she's a lot more intuitive than she gives herself credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so she was probably thinking about me over there with this tree and the wind, and then she appeared there with my girls, just standing there,
Mm-hmm.
and I just ran straight towards them, and bam! Then the thing hit the ground next to me.
Jeez.
It was
I'm so
crazy.
glad it didn't hit you.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
yeah. Um, Now, when you saw it coming, did you physically see it, or was that
Yeah.
did you see
Mhm.
it before it started to fall? Okay.
No, I mean, me and this other gentleman were, I mean, our attention was on the roof of the house that the first part of the tree fell on. That's where our attention, I mean, we're totally focused
Mhm.
on this chimney, trying to think of, game plan. How are we going to get that down? If we can't get a crane out today, how are we going to get that down? Because the yard is like a terraced hill, like really steep. And so we
Oh,
were afraid that if that chimney rolls off the roof, it hits one of those terraces, and then it's going to launch down, tumble down into the highway. And so we were, it was a pretty precarious situation, and so
right.
our attention was totally on that. And it wasn't until we heard the crack. I'm sure he looked up just the same as I did, and I just saw that start to move, and I was yelled, "Get out!" And we just ran.
Yeah. No, I was wondering if you had if that was almost a premonition too, but
No, that was just straight up, this is happening now.
mhm. But this is, I mean, and I don't mean to take this that's a very real personal experience and turn it into a metaphysical analysis, but
Mhm.
um the whole process of what you went through, it's fascinating to me at how that put out puts out in the works, and a certain amount of peace, it sounds like, of the end and accepting. And then was it Molly that was projecting, or was it
Well, I just
guides or
saw
somebody, or
well, I'm not sure. Um, again, it was all like slow motion in my
hmm
mind, or my mind, or your mind, just works faster or something. And I
hmm
wouldn't, it just seemed like I had time to realize what was happening, time to realize where I was in relation to this branch,
hmm
and that it was my time, and
wow.
kind of an accepting of it. And I could just, as I was running, and then it was just like, my wife and girls just appeared in front of me, 25 feet away or whatever.
Excuse me.
And
hmm
so I just ran in that direction. And yeah, it's it's weird to go back and think about it. And I think it's so interesting that it's, why does it happen that when something like that's going to happen, or you hear of reports of, near death experience from like a car accident or something that happened so fast, but the person has time to think about, see their life flash before their eyes, right? You always hear
Right.
that. And think, realize what's happening, accept what's happening, or whatever. I kind of experienced some of that, where it's like, what is time? And that kind of makes you think about what is time, because that was
Uh-huh.
just a few seconds.
Right.
But I had all those thoughts, and what happens to time during that? And that's something that I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah. I wonder how to study that, because that is something. I mean, the physicists and such are coming up with ways time sort of bends or warps, or if you're going at a higher elevation, time is different than down here on Earth. Your
Right.
watch speeds up, or there have been all kinds of experiments, and they're all above my education level. Um, at least my education
Mine
level
too.
in mathematics and physics. But it's fascinating to me. And then how does that work in with what we would call
Reality.
the reality, but also the supernatural, which is reality as well.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just, we our modern society considers it outside the realm of normal, but
Right.
didn't used to be. Even just
Right.
a couple hundred years ago, it was pretty normal. A few hundred
Yeah.
years ago, so
Well, it
it's
kind of,
an interesting picture, and I'm not sure what it looks like yet.
yeah, and it isn't it, when you think about it, like the whole time part of it, and you mentioned the supernatural. Makes me think of what is time like on the other side of things. What is um, like, let's say you have an entity in a location that was somebody who lived there in the late 1800s, right? Well, what
Right.
time is it to them? Does the last 130 years seem like 5 minutes? Has it seemed like an eternity? Like, it kind of makes you wonder I wonder if there's been any studies into that, or psychic studies into time and the relation of time between this side of things and the other side of things.
That's an
I don't know how you
interesting
could do it,
question.
but
I don't know either, but I think I've got a project for us. Like you've got another thing to do that you need to do, or more that you need to do.
let's
Um, this is interesting, and also, does it depend on the type of entity?
right.
Because we've got, we've got energy that's remaining. We've got, um, exactly, Molly.
Yeah, maybe we can ask, yes.
Yes. Um, and that's a whole different practice. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
getting some ideas. Okay. But you get energy that is left behind that can communicate. You get the visiting soul, you get the person that hangs around, you get the photocopy on the wall. I mean, there's so many different pieces of it, and are they all different? Some people obviously know it's a different time because they've adjusted their language and they're not shocked by modern dress and everything because they've been
Been
around it.
around. They've been
And
around.
others
Yeah.
are still very much, it seems to be, in the time period they lived in,
Hmm.
and are rather shocked by a lot of the modern things and speech and familiarity, lack of courtesy.
Yep.
Um, women who have the audacity to wear pants.
Yeah.
I mean, and have
Or
their
how
own
dare they, a
checkbooks.
short sleeve shirt or something. Yeah.
Exactly, or show their own checkbook. And even
Yeah.
men, I mean, my God, they're wearing a t-shirt. That's underwear. No, you have to have a vest on,
Yeah.
something like that, or
Yeah.
get your hat off in the house,
Yeah.
But
What makes that distinction between someone aware and someone that's unaware? Is it a certain level that I think there's different levels a spirit can go through
mhm,
of gaining the knowledge. Maybe it's how much they're accessing the Akashic records, that they want to take in.
mhm,
And, I think there might be different levels of a spirit, can go through. So maybe the ones that seem aware, the ones that don't seem shocked by our dress and our speech and everything, they're kind of at maybe the next level up from the ones who's still in their time. Another distinction may also be is if someone's like stuck in their own time, like in the 1800s or
mhm,
1600s or whatever it is. They just, can they communicate with us? That's another
right,
part of it too, because if they're not communicating with somebody and they're just doing their thing, well, then that's kind of like a repeat, like a
exactly,
what a lot of people call residual, but it's more like, a repeat of that piece of time that we
mhm,
happen to experience. And so that's another level of it too, is what, with these different entities, are they communicating with us, or are they just there
mhm,
and not hearing someone like you and me? They're not hearing what we're asking them or saying to them. They're just in their own zone. It's like, what's the
right.
distinction there?
And I think I do think part of it is, whether or not the spirit, the soul, whatever you want to call things, is here at least partially or not, and how
Right.
much of it is that imprint that we leave behind just because of our energy and what we do, especially if it's a repeated task or important,
Mm-hmm.
or because sometimes the residual seems pretty mundane when we see it,
Yeah.
but it could be something that was done so often that it just leaves a print.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be different than, it's not a living energy in the same way that a being that has part of the soul or spirit with it
Yeah.
would be, I think. And again, this isn't about trapped souls. I don't believe in those. And I know I get in trouble for saying that, but that's okay. Um, I'm old enough now. I
That's
don't care.
yeah, and you just have to have an open mind about anything.
Yeah.
I think someone could, I'm kind of along your same line of thinking, but
Mhm.
uh, maybe there's a different term that might be better than a trapped soul.
Yeah.
More like a focused soul. It's focused on a certain thing, not
Yeah.
necessarily trapped. It's focused on a certain thing. They died suddenly in a car accident. Do they really know they're dead, or do they keep it like Groundhog's Day? They keep repeating the same day. They think they're
Hmm.
just keep repeating the same. They don't know they're dead. You know, you just have to have an open mind, because I don't think
Right.
necessarily they're trapped souls. However, unless there's another spirit keeping a spirit in a location,
There.
that's where I would say maybe that you could have a trapped soul, because it's not of their own will to be
Right.
there. It's
Hmm.
because something has kept them there.
Right. That's a different situation.
Right.
And usually what I find with that is when you let them know, I've experienced this a couple times where there's been like a vampire feel of energy that just sucks the energy out of the, well, there was a haunted um a telephone station in Portland, and I walked by it, and I knew people that worked there, and they told me stories, and you could tell there was an older woman and a child, like grandmother and grandkid, and then
Hmm.
this other entity who had been very mean to them in life and was trying to dominate and control in death. And it's like, he's dead. He doesn't have any power over you. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
And they then just, oh yeah, and they go off and do their thing, and he tumbled into dust. It was great. Um,
Nice.
yeah, but even with that, I don't know that it was all of them or just a piece of them,
Hmm.
that was there.
Oh, I just thought of an interesting question to kind of piggyback on all that, and maybe your um, listeners and friends overseas. I wonder if they've got some insight to it. Um, you said, well, he's dead. He doesn't have any power over you. So people in overseas, let's just say England,
Mhm.
and you've got older haunts, right? Things that have, had stuff going on for centuries, right?
Mhm.
Like Vivian Powell talks about the Tower of London, and one of the experiences she had in there was, a guard from however many years ago, you
Right.
know.
And
So
Matt
to
Pike, who's been listening, is a good friend that is a historian at Stonehenge.
Okay, oh, really old, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is it? What do people experience in places where there's really old history? Are the spirits more often doing like that residual? I don't like to use that term, but
Mhm.
it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Are more is more the majority of the activity more like that, where it's just something repeating a piece of time, or is it where this, they're on this kind of next level where they are with the times, they've experienced and watched everything happen and take place in their own time, whatever that is. Is it one way or the other more so? Do people kind of notice that, um where there's older stuff? Because here in America, compared to the rest of the world,
Right.
newest, newer country, right?
Right.
In the scheme of things. And so, a lot of the spirits that we experience are more recent within, aka, the last 200 years, let's say.
Well, especially on this coast, you know,
Right,
the
right.
East
East
Coast. Now,
Coast, few hundred years there in the East Coast.
yeah,
Yeah.
but even they're nothing like the Europe or the Middle East. And we had Native Americans,
Hmm.
but it was a different. We don't have in this coast. We don't have much archaeology from them. Um,
Right.
and it's a little difficult to I don't find them very often in my work. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I
Oh,
hope I
no,
didn't.
no, that's fine. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I just, maybe one of them can comment, if they've kind of noticed, is it more, with being around where there's such older locations and older spirits, I guess,
Hmm.
people, that are hanging around, are they more of a residual kind or more of an intelligent? It's interesting to think about the different levels I think a spirit can go through.
Right. And then people ask, well, do the sites does the energy decrease over time? So 1,000 years ago it was very active location
Hmm.
and now it isn't as much, or and I don't know the answer to that exactly. I have my own experiences in these places, having
Hmm.
traveled to a number,
Yeah.
and I find some of them are personal experiences where they're relating something to me because of my own
Hmm.
past lives, or
Right.
I'm stumbling into something because of that. But I notice a lot of times what I'm shown is the activity going on, the sculptor or the painter or the scribe or the procession, or lots of different things,
Hmm.
and some understanding coming that way, maybe a little bit of communication, but it's more of watching a process than sitting down over tea, um, and having a conversation.
Yeah.
I've found so far, but it's limited in what I've done, and
You're right, and it may come with, because everyone in those, let's say, Stonehenge times, think
mhm,
about what they knew about, you know, what we call modern day science, totally different, right? Then,
right,
and so is it because of their life experience that they are kind of locked into a certain level of spirituality after that, or can they ascend, go up levels, or stay where they're at? Do they have the open-mindedness and capacity to do more? I don't know, it's kind
right.
of a weird thought.
It is kind of a weird thought. I think that once we pass this earth, though, this body, our souls all go pretty much to the same places, and they have the same education and
Okay.
chances to heal and such. But it would have been in a language and in a way that would be familiar or would work for the people.
Mhm.
Um, I think it doesn't mean it wouldn't be a shock.
Yeah,
They might actually have had it less of a shock than a lot of modern day Christians, because it, from what I'm shown on the other side, it doesn't look like what modern day Christians, well, some of
sure,
them anyway, would talk about. Not all of them. I
sure.
don't mean to lump everybody together, um, but I could see my two grandmothers after they had passed for a while,
Yeah.
and one of them was more involved in her church, and she was kind of shocked and curled up in a ball a little bit because it wasn't white clouds and harps and St. Peter at the gate.
In the gates, yeah.
And the other one was laughing and having a good time and helping. Um,
It's funny.
and, the one grandmother gets there, but it's just, a different. So I think what's there is pretty much steady, but how we approach it and how
Yeah.
we move into it, um,
Yeah, because
is
people take
individual.
people take their faith. Yeah, it's I think it's an individual experience,
Hmm.
but we all go to the same place and can come back from that place, and that's
Hmm.
how we communicate. I think, going to the light. the proverbial light,
Hmm.
whatever that's called. I think we all have the choice to go when we want to go through that light.
Right.
And then when we come back, we're a part of that. But I've had a lot of readings where the spirit I've made contact with shows me their rosary.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of that where these people are, they're holding the rosary, and kind of made me think, um, well, I guess, it's part of taking your personality. It's taking the human part of yourself and your human based beliefs
Hmm.
and the tenets of those beliefs, whatever you've latched on to all the years in your religion, you take that with you, and it goes with you to move on. And so I think that's why I've seen so many rosaries and things like that. I'm sure, um, you know, I'm sure I'll get an experience of where I see like the Star of David or another religious symbol.
Hmm.
People take that with them, and
Right.
because it's a part of them, it's a part of their belief structure, it's a part of what makes them who they are. So I think you do take that, but I think like you said, it's not like the gates,
Right.
it- but there's a light. And I think we go through that, and then that's when we, you know, have a lot of reflection, and you can wash everything off that held you down in life, and then you can come back from that. And that's how we have spirit guides, or relatives that come visit us. And I feel like I'm always hearing stories from people of, um, a loved one who passes, and the next day, from like the next day after they pass, or maybe even the same day to a few months after, they're seeing this person. They're having experiences where they're like, I woke up and this person was at the end of my bed just
Right.
looking at me, or they may say something or say your name or something like that. And, uh, did they all go through the light already and come back? Who
I
knows?
think that they've certainly gone and they come back and forth. And now I'm not even sure about the light.
Hmm.
I You read about that, hear about that, but I don't know how much of that is literal and how much of it
Hmm.
is figurative.
I,
Um,
I feel like I've seen it, or
okay,
whatever my mind was able to perceive as the light. And my best experience of that was, um, you know,
last
uh,
Tuesday.
almost. um, my grandmother and my grandfather had passed 16 years before she did,
Hmm.
and they were just soulmates, those two. You know, and so my grandpa had passed away much earlier, and it was just kind of hit me boof, in my walking through my house one day, and it was like I saw my grandma all of a sudden psychically, and my grandpa, and so it was like I was there to put their hands together. And so I did. It was just all happened quick, and it was just like I saw my grandma and my grandpa, and I put their hands together, and then they turned away from me and like went into this light. And
That's
then
beautiful.
a couple minutes later, my dad called and said, "Your grandma just passed away." And I was like, "I know." you
Hmm.
know?
She was just here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to me, I mean, it was bright. That, what I could see in this vision was, it was super bright, and they just kind of went into it, and then
Wow.
I couldn't see him.
Hmm.
And so, and I've had some other readings too, where it seemed like there was a light somewhere coming from
Hmm.
somewhere. And
Okay.
so that's been my experience.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Um, and I wasn't saying it isn't there. I'm not. I don't have a lot of experience with it. And
Yeah.
when my parents passed, both of them, um, I was with them. I was holding hands, but there were people in the room to go with them, to help them.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, Katie is so sweet.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and but I didn't see that. I didn't have those same experiences with them.
Yeah.
Um, but
And
um,
it's all in what we perceive, right? Like
right.
you perceive things in a different way than I perceive things in a
Hmm.
different way, that so and so perceives things in a different
Hmm.
way, and it's all just about our own human experience
Right.
connecting with the other side, and
Hmm.
people who channel, physical mediums. Thank God I don't do that.
I've seen that Vivian does it, um,
I don't
and
know, man. That seems like it taxes you pretty bad.
it does.
Yeah.
Um, and I was told, uh, oh, good. Here's something from Matt.
Stonehenge is all about the cycles of our sun and its relationship with the length of the day, and it marks the moon's path at an 18.61 year repetition across the skies. Well, this is a great detail. Jeez. But also our
Matt's amazing.
ancestors, yeah, but also our ancestors understanding the perpetual cycle of life that we all still experience. Just they expressed this with permeance of stone loving. Oh, that's an interesting explanation.
Yeah,
Very cool.
and thank you, Matt. Matt, I mean, he is.
That's pretty
He's
cool.
worked at the Stones for some time. He's been their writer in residence. He's worked on a lot of programs. He's developed a lot of tours. He's part of a Frog and Ruby, two other good friends. They have a tour company that they do history tours and different things. Matt's
Yeah.
got walks that he's designed that go out amongst the different burial mounds. I think there are 370 known burial mounds
Wow.
on the Stonehenge acreage site. Um,
Incredible.
it's no, it's. I miss being out there every day.
Yeah.
Um, but so thank you for
Thanks for
sharing
sharing
that
that. Yeah.
insight, and it makes sense to me. It really does.
Yeah, like the people there would understand the cycle of things so much because their life was about that. Uh, he might be blushing over there. But it kind of makes sense, I guess. Those people believed in the cycle of things.
Yes.
And and so maybe as spirits they have the knowledge of understanding maybe it's not time, maybe it's cycles, but then again cycles break down to time. So, you know, what is
Mhm.
time, darn it?
Well, and it's such a different thing for people of that period too, because they didn't need to know hour by hour so much or minute by minute,
Right.
but your chance of succeeding or staying alive depends on planting at the right time,
Yeah.
knowing when animals are going to be mating, knowing when um,
Right.
the calves are born, and or the goats, or the wild deer, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Cycles of things.
exactly, cycles. They've got Woodhenge is at the other side of Stonehenge,
Hmm.
and next to it is Darrington Wall. And you can't see the archaeology anymore. They did the dig, then covered it all over, and it's sheep pasture now again. But they found massive amounts of pig bones, domesticated pig bones that they were able to trace all the way up to Scotland. And they were able to know when the celebrations were because they were able to figure out the pigs were like 9 months old or something like that. And they know when breeding season is, how long it takes for
Ah,
um, the pregnancy and birth, and these people were coming for celebrations, and probably they also helped build Stonehenge. But again, but it's a cycle. It's a part of a cycle,
yeah.
and used for a different way.
So it's kind of like we have to almost kind of remember that living by a cycle rather than by an hour.
Hmm.
And maybe that changes how time works. I don't know. The thing I experienced, a few days ago, I mean, it's just so weird that it was And now I know what people are talking about when they say, my life flashed before my eyes. That I didn't get that, but had enough time to have multiple thoughts,
Right.
in those just few seconds, fleeting seconds. And and I guess it comes back to being present and in the moment, and not always living in the future or living in the past, but
Right.
living in the moment's what matters.
Right. How's your meditation? It sounds like you've been practicing a lot. I mean,
Uh
the moment focus.
I don't, that was like pure adrenaline probably. But I don't know. I mean, I don't really practice all that I preach so much on the, hyper
Uh-huh.
focus all the time. I try when I can, but I'm usually so busy, like everyone else is,
Right. Hmm.
super busy with stuff. And so I feel like I need to maybe take some more time in that, and just go to a location and just kind of hang out there,
Hmm.
let everything else kind of clear out. Maybe need to do more of that. I'm always telling people to do it, try this out, try this and that, and I got to
Hmm.
practice what I preach,
Yeah, I'm guilty of
to
that
help out.
myself sometimes. Yep. Hmm.
But I will say though too, um, I think it was last year. So in regards to the whole time thing,
Hmm.
um, I was trying to do a reading for my wife, and it was like I went to this totally different place, and it was really cool because it was like a place on Earth, but it didn't
Hmm.
seem like Earth. Everything was like hypercolor. Uh, like if you change the color spectrum, that's kind of how everything was. But it was like
Was
the
that after
clouds.
mushroom tea?
No, 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 none of that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like all the clouds, like time lapse camera when you
Huh?
have like a time lapse of the sky and you see the clouds come through. That's
Hmm.
what they all looked like. It was like
Wow.
fast motion but slow motion at the same time, and I'm probably really confusing people, and that's just the best way I can describe it. But it was like it seemed like time was weird there because of how
Okay.
everything was moving and the wind blowing, like tall grass around. It was all like it looked all time lapsed, but not fast, but slow motion. But it seemed like everything was moving fast. I don't know. It's really hard to
Okay.
explain, but that was what it really stuck out to me because I was like, well, that's really weird because everything should be moving like this, but it's not. It's moving in this other way, and and I got to see all these people for her, and it
Mm.
and it was in this weird time place. It was just kind of strange, and like the sky was like kind of a purple, like a violet type, like everything was like opposite spectrum of what you'd think it would be.
Right.
And but there was all these people, and but it was just the one of the big things I noticed in this thing was just how time seemed to not stand still, but it wasn't like what we think it is.
Right.
It was weird.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. And it sounds beautiful. I mean, it
It was
sounds like
cool.
a beautiful place to hang out for a while.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Yeah, it was shown to him in relation to me needing to hear that time here on earth isn't the only time we will have. Yep. Thanks, Molly.
ah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. Um,
It reminds me too. I don't have it right here, but I'm reading a book by Tim Roby. He's a historian, and
mhm.
it's on the it's a historical novel to explain the Amesbury Archer and the bringing of the Bronze Age and the Beaker people into Wiltshire and Stonehenge and all that kind
Okay.
of thing.
Hmm.
And I'm just reading a piece in this where um, the time, the main character is being shown these visions, and time is all messed up. It's past, it's future, it's now, it's a whirl of all kinds of things. Um, he's unconscious from an injury, but in the story, but that's how this happens. But he's a seer as well as a stone changer.
Okay.
Making copper out of or bronze out of um, stone, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's interesting. There
Well,
seems
yeah, the whole time thing is just interesting. And I think there's some quantum physicists that have studied that. And there's like the loaf of bread theory with time, where it's like you can take slices here and move it back here, other slices here. It's all slices of time, not like
okay.
one steady thing. And if anybody knows what that's called, I can't remember, but I just remember that it's compared to like a loaf of bread that you slice up.
Okay.
and,
Oh, that's interesting.
and there could
Yeah.
be multiple loaves of bread. So who knows?
Wow. I think. Do you know who you need at your conference to speak? I don't know anybody, but you need a qualified PhD in quantum
Physics.
physics.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, to help, and somebody who could not talk down to us, but make sure those of us that have a lot of interest and a tiny bit of understanding, and have don't have a science degree,
Right.
but um, can understand.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good idea. It'd be interesting to see how much more quantum physicists are looking at paranormal theories.
you got a
And
pretty major university just across the sound.
I know I should start looking.
I'm just thinking out loud,
Yeah.
um, but I think that would be quite a coup for the conference.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. Well, it'd just be cool because, I mean, someday I hope, mainstream science and paranormal theories and investigation, yep, will get closer and closer, and we can have a better understanding of things. And
Yeah,
maybe somebody can finally invent a meter that's like, says that is spiritual energy in front of you. That's a ghost. Nobody has one of those.
yeah, and it'd be nice if we could work with not just mediumship with working with entities, but being able to go wherever it is we go when we do our work
Hmm.
and bring that into part of that norm as well and
Yeah.
explaining history and doing things. I mean, that's what I love, you know, going to the historic sites. Meeting great people is part of it
Yeah.
too, of course, but
Yeah.
um, going and to see the historic sites, but then reading those sites and seeing what I can pick up and feel and see from these sites and the history. And I never have enough time, but um, it's a big part of the draw. And can that be brought into a record then where things can be checked out
Yeah.
to
It's
see, used as an avenue of exploration?
yeah.
Um,
You
and
have
I
to
know it's
determine you got to determine what that data is, what kind of data it is, and how you can measure it.
right,
And then the work begins of, well, how do you interpret that data? So,
exactly.
but it's like, got to figure out what data is that. Is it, uh, and I'm pretty sure there's been studies done, in parapsychology, doing psychical research of measuring brain waves, right?
Right.
So like when you're at Stonehenge and you've got you're hyper focused, you're seeing things. What are your brain waves doing? And it's got to be something to do with that, I'm guessing. But again,
Hmm.
that's way above my education level in science and all that stuff for sure.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting. Oh, whole new project to fund.
I just think, yeah, I just think of Ghostbusters. When they've got Rick Moranis and the big, headset thing, and it it shows in the scan that he's the Beast.
Hmm.
So there got to be some device like that, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I think I agree with you, but on the other hand too, it's kind of nice to not have it be explained by a meter.
sure.
It
Yeah.
the esoteric part of it is part of what I find interesting because
Yeah.
I know it exists.
Hmm.
I've experienced. I mean,
Right.
that's why I believe it too. I've experienced. I'm highly skeptical, but when I have experiences I can't explain any other way, that leads to some pretty sound conclusions, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well, that personal
it's fun just to
experience
go there.
is, yeah, and that personal experience is just what it is. It's a personal
Hmm.
experience, and it can validate or change your belief system. And that's why the people who are very skeptical, who haven't had experiences, teams need those people. That's for
Oh yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
Those people have to be there in the research field. But isn't it, once they have a personal experience, man, it shakes that belief system and then opens your mind
Right.
and the possibilities. And so it is, that personal experience is so impactful.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it, Michael White says it's the most impactful experience, but also the most flawed because there's humans involved.
Right. Michael White reminds me sometimes in a very good way of Spock.
Yeah, it's very logical. Yes,
Yes.
indeed.
Yeah. Uh, but with a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Um, very human. Um, no, he's a good guy. Um, yeah, there's an art to all this and there's a science to it all. And they can be the same thing, but they never seem to fit together.
Right.
Um, and
Maybe it'll always be that way.
yeah, and I'm not sure that it's a bad thing that they don't. It's different parts of our brains at work.
Yeah. Right.
And actually, that makes, they talk about left brain, right brain. When we're doing mediumship work, whether it's with other entities or travel or whatever it is,
Hmm.
I'm wondering how that works with the two hemispheres of the brain.
I think they're communicating to each side, communicating to each other in a different way, or there's just different different wired connections between the half that are working differently.
Hmm.
And something I want to actually research more, and instead of just talking about it, is the connection with like music and playing music or being a student of music, um, where your brain just communicates with itself a little differently from somebody who is, music's not a big, it's a part of their life, but it's not like a passion in their life, or they don't play music. Musicians' brains are going to communicate a little differently. And I find that a lot of mediums either play music or they're students of music and just love it. And
Yeah.
especially like classical music, you fall into, this
Mhm.
category. I've thought of you before as well. Williams, loves classical music, and it's all the intervals, right? It's
And
all the,
I played the trombone from fourth grade through
there you
my
go.
first year at college. Your your
There you go.
your bachelor's is history or music?
If I finished school, it would be music.
Oh, I thought you'd finished. Okay. But I
No,
knew you were studying I knew you'd
music,
studied with both, but I know music was
music.
a main piece.
Yeah.
So, Okay.
Yeah, music is it was the main piece,
Mhm.
and so music has been scientifically proven that your brain communicates differently
Right.
when you either study music or you play music. And classical music for sure is like that's like the thing that always works. It's like an automatic home run hitter.
Right.
Classical music, get your brain in that mode. And so a medium, I think their brain communicates with its between its parts, much like a musician does
Mhm.
when they're, playing in intervals and the connections between each side. It just works differently. And so I
Yeah.
think that's what it's like for mediums. It's the same sort of connections.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, I think you need to write a book in all your free time.
Well, I am currently writing one about my ghost walk tours.
Oh, good.
Uh, and then there will, maybe someday there'll be some others, but I got to get the first one. I got to get the first one done first. First is first,
Yes.
and then go from there.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's
Did Molly tell you to say that?
no, she didn't. No. Didn't know you were writing this one, but I think I've told you to say that before. I'm not sure.
I know.
I can't remember, but I'm glad she's on you about it.
Yes, all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, no, there's, I don't know. I think music could, and we're kind of jumping all over the place here, which is fun.
Yeah.
Uh, but, I think, in psychic development, I'd like to see how music can help that. Instead of like, telling people they need to go quote unquote meditate and do this and, maybe
Mhm.
it's, there's some music. I don't want to say music therapy, but maybe it's, something with music might help open people up, and
That's a
it'd
good
be
point.
interesting.
In Magister Ludi, the book, Herman Hesse, part of young Kant's teaching and schooling and study with the music master, the meditation and such, and he would go off and see the notes and be taken in his meditation by the notes in the music and things swirling. He wasn't listening to it at the time,
Hmm.
but it was such a big part of everything that it was becoming alive in his music
Yeah,
or in his meditation. And that, what you just said, reminds me with this, and it kind of fits in a way that I could see where this could be
that
a
could
good
be. Yeah,
possibility.
could be something to help, somebody awaken that part of their mind
Mhm,
and spirit. Could be a way to, once you've already been awakened, to help hone your skills through music. I mean,
mhm.
it's interesting to me. And like the band I'm in now, it's like so easy when we play music, and it's just, any band, anybody who plays in bands, when it's just so easy, the music is so easy, it
Uh-huh.
just flows. How are we, we're all in the same mental space at
Right,
that point. Like, I know
right.
what this guy's going to do, he knows what the other guy's going to do before it happens or as it's happening. And that, I guess, where that's more of a collective mind conversation, but
Uh-huh.
music is involved. So how maybe that could help people getting started with the psychic journey or having all kinds of crazy experiences but don't know what the heck to do about it. Well, listening to, maybe certain kinds of music can help them start to sort that out and have their own brain make those connections,
Right.
to get them to where they need to be. I
I
don't
think
know.
that's an interesting thought. There's just off the top of my head, it makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense too. I mean, everybody's got a different way of working, of knowing, there isn't a one size fits all in this work.
Right,
And
right.
having music help set that language for each person, or that artistic part, the feel.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I know they
Well,
found that even if you're not good at art or music, just practicing it, taking classes, especially when you're younger, um,
yeah.
opens up the brain to all kinds of other processes. I mean, it develops a lot better thinking skills and processing skills and all kinds of things. Just the
Yeah.
practice of it as a kid.
Totally
And
agree. Yeah. Eg-
yeah,
You don't have to be good.
mm-mm,
I'm not Mozart by any sort of means, but you know,
I
it just
wasn't on
takes
my
the
trombone either.
it just well, I guess it's about each person's intent. If they're
Mhm,
gonna find try and find what works for them. It's you have the right intent of I'm doing this because of this. I'm doing this because I want this out of it.
mhm.
And that may be another crucial part of figuring things out, getting your intent set.
Yeah, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense too. This is interesting. Lots to think about.
Hopefully everybody out there is not like, what in the hell has this guy been drinking?
Water, honest.
Yeah.
The glass is green, not the liquid in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No absinthe.
Yeah.
Um,
That's later, right? No.
yeah. No, I'm working with a client tomorrow, so got to
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, great conversation. Thanks.
thank you. I love this. And actually, we're a little over an hour. Um, do you have anything else that you would like to add or carry on about? Or
Well, just one more shameless self promotion. Hope people can check out
good.
my show as well, along with Williams. My show is on Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific. It's called the Paranormal Pete Show. Just look me up on Facebook and you'll find it, or you can look up the station right there.
Okay.
Everywhere. Check out my show. William's been on there. Got to get you on there again here soon.
It's a great show. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so I got that every Tuesday night, and yeah, just remember to, and especially after this last week with the tree and everything, I just say make sure you hug the ones you're with, and really look at what you got in life, and appreciate the little things. Don't sweat them, but appreciate them.
Right.
You know,
It's
that's what I would have to say. Take some time to be present, and really know what you've got.
I appreciate that. That's a beautiful way to end it. And
Yeah.
thank you so very, very much.
You're welcome.
And
Anytime.
um, yeah, and we will do it soon. I need to get up for Matt posted about needing a tour. I need to get up for another tour as well. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And Matt, I only live 4 hours from Pete, and I've got a haunted guest room. You're always welcome. Oh,
Yes. That'd be great. I'd love to
yeah,
go over there and take one of his tours. That would be
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. There's so much history over there,
Yeah.
and it's the depth of the spiritual that you can turn into with the history is just amazing.
Yeah. It's got to
So
be humbling for sure.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, thanks so much, and thanks everybody out there. And I always love talking to William. And William, I bring you up probably once an episode about something.
oh
you know,
wow, thank you.
William's been through my psychic journey, been a good mentor for me. And so whenever I'm talking with a guest about, you know, having somebody you can talk to, uh, you know, that's what it's all about, to help you get going through anything. And so I always bring you up on there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I bring you up in my shows too. Um, um, in the good guy list. Um, but everybody, I want to thank you as I stumble on my words again. Thank you for watching today. You get what you take. You take what you get with me.
Yeah.
Um, and feel free to write in any comments or something. You can write to me on Messenger or to Pete on Messenger. And we will have the links to the show to spread out to people who weren't able to watch live, probably later today.
Okay.
And so, with that, I will say goodbye and see you in a couple weeks. Take care,
All right.
everyone.
Bye bye.